Welcome to Chrissy's Books. Oh my god, long time. So this week I am really excited to be doing this book review. I read this book a long time ago, and I'm finally just getting around to actually putting the book review out there. And the book that I have for you today is Will by Will Smith with Mark Manson. The fun fact about this book, I actually listened to the audiobook a month before the Oscars fiasco. So that was such a weird thing because I'd finished reading his book and, I'm going to give you my book review about it. And then the next week, I actually watched the Oscars. I've been watching it for so many years. I love movies. I read this book or listened to this book a week before the whole Oscar situation. So it was kind of like, oh God, this is awkward. And then I just kind of went on a big reading slump and just didn't, not because of the Will Smith book, but just generally. And I'm finally coming out with the freaking book review now. I've actually always been a bit of a fan for Will Smith because I grew up watching The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was my go-to show after school, coming home and putting it on TV. It was always on TV. So that was like the show that everybody watched back in the day. And I've actually liked and I've enjoyed most of his movies as well. Yeah, so when this book came out, I definitely wanted to kind of give it a listen or give it a read. And the fun fact is this book is actually narrated by Will Smith himself. So once I knew that Will Smith was narrating his own book, I knew that I wanted to actually listen to the audiobook. Without further much ado, let's get into the book review for Will by Will Smith. As you can guess, this book is a memoir about Will Smith. In this memoir, we learn all about his journey to success, his music, his acting career, his journey to self-knowledge, and how he became the man that he is today. This book is written with the help of author Mark Manson. And if you don't know who that is, that's the book that actually was a bestseller for like forever. And it's called The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I actually have, and I have not read that book. I literally have it on my bookshelf. Yeah, so together they write an absolute entertaining read into the psyche of Will Smith and how he came from his humble beginnings of West Philly to being one of Hollywood's top A-list actors and top rappers of back in his time. All right, so let's get into my review for Will by Will Smith. So one thing I will say about this book is that Will Smith loves Will Smith. I guess rightly so, because this book was really, really entertaining to listen to. I actually really, really loved the audiobook a lot, more than I thought I would have. It's probably one of the most entertaining audiobooks I've listened to in a very, very, very long time. So this is what you're gonna get when you listen to the audiobook. It's just like him narrating his own memoir or autobiography, and it's just pure entertainment. So his story starts off right at the beginning from when he was a kid to where he is now. So it is really like a timeline of his, life and his story. And it's got a really great chronological order to it. So it goes really from childhood and up to teenage years and then adulthood, through his music career, his acting career. So it is very chronological. So for all those kind of like OCD people, this is a really good book to read or listen to because it kind of just like really narrates his life from beginning to where he is now. So we learn about his values growing up, his struggles with being an awkward kid who's maybe not black enough, nor was he white enough, and how it shaped his young adult life. I quite like that there were some very serious chapters within his memoir. For example, he touched on the domestic abuse that he grew up with his intimidating father and the complex relationship he had with him. I found those chapters to be quite raw and very real and vulnerable as well. He explained to us how his relationship with his father shaped the type of father that he wanted to become for his children. So those were some pretty like intense chapters, but also provided a good balance for the rest of the memoir because it is sort of like very, very funny and then, it gets very serious. So you get a little bit of everything with this memoir. And of course, we get into some really, really fun chapters within this book, such as his music career. And actually, one of my favorite chapters was when he started talking about the birth of hip hop. So this was a really great addition to this book, and I feel like it added like some gravitas to this book. I mean, Will Smith did really grow up in a very, very specific and amazing time for hip hop music, and you got to see it and be a part of it as well. I definitely recommend for you to listen to this book if you are a fan of hip hop, old school hip hop, because it really kind of describes how the scene kind of bursts, you know, into the scene, really. So I really love that, and he has a deep love for hip hop, and it really shines through with this book. And one amazing addition that I'll say with the audiobook is that he raps actually quite a few times, which is really awesome. I really loved when he was like, Will Smith was being very Will Smith in this book, and he got to rap for us as well, so it shows his talents. And you don't really get that in audiobooks, so I really liked that element. It was a very entertaining listen for sure. If you're really into old school hip hop, you're gonna like listening to this book. Obviously, he gets into like, you know, how the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air came to be. And I loved that chapter so much because it's like getting an inside look into like how the birth of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air actually came to be. I just really, really enjoyed that chapter a lot. So if you're a Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan and you want to know about all the juicy stuff about how that show came to be, the cast members and all that stuff, definitely check out this book. And then on top of sort of all the many chapters within this book, in the later chapters, I definitely noticed that Will Smith these days is quite spiritual, and he gets into a lot of metaphors in this read. You know, he does talk in that way sometimes if you see his interviews. And some people may like that, some people may not like that at times. But also at times I did feel that the book was a little bit too detailed about his life, and actually he really like beefs himself up in this book. Like, he really loves how much he's accomplished, and you hear about all the stats and numbers and all that stuff in this memoir. I thought that was a little bit funny, but then also, you know, I guess we should be celebrating our accomplishments, and he definitely celebrated his accomplishments in this book. And I will say that after saying all that, he is one of very few Black actors who have actually accomplished, you know, the amount of work that he's done and the respect that he, well, pre-Oscars respect that he sort of had for the public. So I do have to give him props for that. Like, you know, he really has accomplished a lot in his career, and we don't have a lot of Black actors who are out there. You know, you can only name like 5 of them in your hand who are like A-listers. So I'm always going to be rooting for the minorities, you know. So with all that said, let's get into my 4 words that I would use to describe Will by Will Smith. So the first word is nostalgic. I'm reading from my phone, so I'm just going to be looking down a little bit. So this book is very nostalgic. It is a love letter to the best era of hip hop, the late 80s to early 90s, which is the birth of the hip hop era. It really takes you back to a specific time in history that was like literally epic. And I just felt really nostalgic vibes for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So yeah, I would definitely say this book was nostalgic. The second word I would use is entertaining. Like, yo, this was such an entertaining book to listen to. Probably one of the most entertaining books I've listened to in a very long time. It felt like you were watching a movie, and you were like excited to go back for more. So like I was like, oh, when am I going to listen to this book again? Because it really was very entertaining, and it just pulls you right in. It was very animated and a very stimulating listen. He raps a lot as well in it, and there was music, there were beats. It was just like a whole vibe. It was very entertaining. The third word I would say is raw. Will Smith laid it all out for us in this book. He took us through his journey, his upbringing, up to the person that he is today. And it just really shows you who he is and the person that he's grown to become. So yeah, it was very raw book. And the fourth word is unapologetic. This was a very much like take it or leave it kind of book. Like he just sort of like, which is why I can actually like get the I don't know, the like kind of attitude that you get from the author that he wrote with, Mark Manson, because Mark Manson is a very sort of blunt. I watch his YouTube channel, I listen to his Spotify, so he is very sort of like in your face a little bit, and he's very sort of like take it or leave it kind of guy. Like he's very blunt, and he's, I don't know, I like it. I like his kind of style, and that really does come through with this book. So it was very bold, it was in your face, it was punchy. It just really has that spirit of Mark Manson behind it. Like you can tell it's Will Smith, because Will Smith is like that as well, but Mark Manson is like almost like his little voice here on his shoulder, and it's just like has this whole spirit of like badassery. Also, Will Smith is a man's man, and Will Smith loves Will Smith. Enough said. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny, like, because I wrote this book review and everything before the Oscars, and like, yeah, like that last one, Unapologetic, and then after watching the Oscars, I was just like, oh yeah, Will Smith is Will Smith. So yeah, let's get into my rating for Will by Will Smith. So for this book, I gave this book a rating of 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10, you guys. Pre-Oscars, okay? Like I said, I wrote this book before the Oscars, but I'm judging the book for the book. You know, whatever Will Smith did at the Oscars is just like whatever. But the book itself was actually really good. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed listening to it. It was very entertaining. I actually liked Will Smith. I still like him, but you know, yeah, I still like Will Smith. And he's accomplished a lot in his career. And like I said, we don't have a lot of, you know, Black A-list actors who have made the amount of movies that he's made, and he's able to cross over to so many different genres of movies and stuff. So yeah, it was a 9 out of 10 book, like judging the book on itself. So just to wrap up this book review, Will was a very entertaining listen. He raps, he sings, he was very animated in this book. There's a lot of fun trivia, and it's also a love letter to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. You learn a lot of fun facts about how the show was created and the cast of the show. This is a really fun book for any Fresh Prince of Bel-Air fan, or anyone who is an aspiring actor. I also feel like it's a really good book to listen to, because you get a lot of insights into what it's like filming a TV show, how the whole Hollywood world works and celebrity world and that kind of thing. So yeah, it was a pretty good book, and I enjoyed listening to it. And I will say that at the Oscars, the General definitely attended the Oscars and Mr. Fluffy stayed at home. And you will know the reference of what that is when you read that book, because I was just like, damn, Will Smith, okay. So yeah, I really love this memoir. I feel like I understand Will Smith as a person a lot more now after reading this book or listening to this book. Even though at times he definitely beefed himself up and, you know, beefed up his ego and all that. He's done really well in his career, and I'm not mad at that. So yeah, good book, good book. So let's get into my song pick after all that. So this song was actually played at the end of this audiobook. And I loved that. I loved that he played like an outro song, you know, for this audiobook. And I loved it. And I was like, this is a really good song. Okay, Will Smith. Okay. It's really catchy. And it's all about this book. So it kind of made it a very easy song pick for me. So the song pick for this book is Will, the remix by Will Smith and Joyner Lucas. I will say that this song is very catchy. Like, it's pretty good. I liked it. I was like, oh, this is Will Smith. And you know, one fun fact about Will Smith is he does not curse in his rapping. So, which is really interesting. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, stay tuned. I'm back now, so I'll be doing my regular book reviews. And look forward to the next one.